Dollar cost averaging is an investment strategy that aims to reduce the impact of volatility by spreading out smaller investments over in equal portions at regular intervals, regardless of price. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon to see how this strategy can be useful to Bitcoin investors. With that in mind, welcome to the third stack of the Bitcoin Bulletin Podcast's DCA Wednesday edition. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as financial advice. All views expressed on this podcast are solely the opinions of the host and/or any guests that we might have from time to time. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow a particular investing strategy. All right, you sexy sat stackers, welcome back to the Bitcoin Bulletin Podcast DCA Wednesday edition. As I previously stated, this will be our third stack in this journey that we just started to explore the benefits of the investment strategy known as dollar cost averaging. As you may know, or if you are just joining us, we decided that we're going to experiment by stacking $20 of the Bitcoin every Wednesday until you either stop listening or we become stinking rich. Just kidding. I chose the figure of $20 because while it's not a whole lot of money to some people, it is a whole lot of money to others. So if you're following along, you might choose to stack more or you might choose to stack less, but $20 seemed like a reasonable amount to start out with, at least for the purposes of this experiment. As usual, we'll be stacking with the Cash app today, although I am intrigued with the Strike app's new Buy Bitcoin button. For the purposes of this episode, we're going to keep it simple and continue with what we are doing. If you don't already have the Cash app, there is a referral code link in the show notes down below, where you can get $5 worth of free Bitcoin for signing up and following along with a couple other terms and conditions. All right, with that said, today is Wednesday, August 11th, and we are currently sitting at a block height of 695,319. And according to Cash App, Bitcoin is currently $46,604.01. I have $20 loaded up into Cash App, and I'm scrolling over to the Bitcoin tab, and I'm going to press the Buy Bitcoin button, manually enter $20 because for some reason the options are 10, 25, 50, 75, 100, and custom. So I'm going to tap in $20, hit next, and it says that we'll be purchasing 41,947 sats after our 45-cent fee. So I'm clicking OK to confirm. And voila, we've purchased an additional 41,947 Satoshis. And that brings our stack up to 141,428 Satoshis, which is currently valued at $65.84. Obviously, Bitcoin's a little pricier than it was last week. So even though we're just off to our third stack, we've invested a grand total of $60. And since we're on the way up, NGU has given us a $5.84 gain so far. Not too shabby for just $60. As usual, we do not have any sponsors for this show, so if you would like to support us, in the show notes there is that $5 bonus Cash App referral link, and if you choose to sign up for Cash App with that link, you'll get their bonus, and we'll get a little bit of the bonus as well. There's also a link to the support button for Anchor FM, where you can support us directly through Anchor FM, and there's a Bitcoin address on there as well if you would like to support us by donating Bitcoin. Also, Don't forget, I am the author of Understanding Bitcoin for Noobs, which you can purchase at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, and that will support the podcast as well. If you don't have access to Cash App, maybe it's not available in your country, or you just prefer to use something else, you can go ahead and stack however you want. All that matters is that you consistently and relentlessly stack those sats. Also, as I mentioned in the previous stack, you don't have to manually enter your $20 amount like I do. I'm just relentless about checking prices obsessively. But there is a set it and forget it feature with Cash App as well, where you can automate your stack so it just purchases the same amount every week or how often you choose to set it and forget it. Other services like Swan Bitcoin offer that sort of feature as well. But again, I just like to follow the charts all day long. So I prefer to manually enter my trades, and maybe that's a little more stressful than it should be, but that's how I prefer to do it. All right, now that we're done with our stack, back to what has remained the number one story of the week, and that is the Senate infrastructure bill, which unfortunately has passed in its original, not necessarily its original incarnation, but with its original crypto amendment, with its incredibly vague language that would seemingly require miners, wallet operators, and everyone under the sun, basically, to comply with burdensome and onerous reporting requirements. Basically, if you run an Umbrel node or a Raspberry Blitz or just Core on an old laptop, you would have to fill out a 1099 for every single Bitcoin transaction that passes through your node. Obviously, that's incredibly ridiculous. Unfortunately, it did pass the Senate, which means when this comes up for a vote in the House, when they come back from their fall recess, it's going to be time to go to war on this again. Fortunately, as more and more becomes known about this infrastructure debacle, more and more allies are coming out of the woodworks in support of Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Corn, coin, whatever, I'll be more than happy to shill the corn. Anyway, even I'd rather have bananas Mark Cuban has come out swinging, saying, quote, shutting off this growth engine would be the equivalent of stopping e-commerce in 1995 because people were afraid of credit card fraud, unquote. There certainly is a lot to not like about this infrastructure bill, even if you aren't a Bitcoiner. Ironically, while the media was quick to call the infrastructure bill bipartisan, what was truly bipartisan was the nature of the response to Janet Yellen's last-minute attempt to sabotage Bitcoin, with senators on both sides of the aisle rallying to propose two and then ultimately one almost unanimously agreed upon amendment to the amendment, which would have exempted miners and node operators, which unfortunately was delayed by a single vote when Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama attempted to demand $50 million in additional military spending for his support of the amendment. You can be the most patriotic person you know. You can support the troops till you're blue in the face. But the intent of Senator Shelby's last-minute demand was pure sabotage. Perhaps non-ironically, Senator Shelby is not running for re-election, so he doesn't have to worry about the little people like you and me and what you think about his actions any longer. Twitter founder Jack Dorsey took the high road on the Senate's failure to find compromise, tweeting, quote, Bitcoin will unite a deeply divided country and eventually the world. And in additional bullish news, AMC Theaters announced on Monday that they will begin accepting Bitcoin for movie tickets and concessions by the end of 2021. So despite the drama in the House and Senate, you'll at least be able to kick back and enjoy your popcorn while watching it all go down. It still remains to be seen whether we have officially entered the quote, and then they fight you stage. But as Andreas Antonopoulos coined, TikTok new block, Bitcoin marches on. And it has marched on quite substantially, quite impressively this week, with Bitcoin up 15.85% over the week and 37.58% for the month. Clearly, regardless of what else is going on, the one overwhelming feeling, the one overwhelming impression I'm left with is that I have not stacked enough sats. So with that in mind, you keep on stacking those sats, you sexy sat stackers, and we will see you next time.